Hello there, today I will show you how to make a first-person weapon system. The thing about this is to align the weapon to the center of the screen. This can be called M side or iron side. Okay, I will also show you how to create this SOS system. It's just a small improve on the weapon movement. So for this, I'm using the base locomotion system as a base, and this for the camera system. As you can see on the character, I don't have any camera components because this thing is using a player camera manager. This creates a camera, and for the movement, you just need to override the location, rotation, and the FOV. So you don't need extra cameras or something like that. Okay, just search for it is on the vessel locomotion system, blueprints, camera system, and here's. So what's the logic about this? I need to override this function, call it update camera blueprint. You can search for it on the functions, blueprint update camera, and the idea is override the return node using a location and a rotation. To do that, I'm going to use the skeletal mesh on my weapon. Just go to the skeleton, and I'm going to create a socket to use it as a location and rotation. So just make a right click, add a socket, give it a name, and just move it where you want. Okay, so is you need to move it to the iron side. Okay, something like that, and just give some space. So I'm going to use this socket, as you can see here. And now the first thing is just make a reference to the character that I'm using. So under the ALS Player Command Manager, on the burn graph, just search for this unpossessed event. It's right here. And this is something like the begin play. I like to add this delay just to avoid some mistakes and just get the player character. Okay, get player character. Is right here, and use it to make a cast to the current character that you're using. In my case, it's this one, alias animation match character blueprint. You can just promote this to a variable, or you can create a variable right here. Just click under here, and I need to create this variable of the variable type of the character that I'm using. Okay, so just drag and drop that right here, and set player, and use this to fill that variable. If you're following my last tutorial, I teach you how to create a base weapon actor. So you can get that, the current weapon, or in my case, I'm just going to use the schedule mesh, is right here, on the function update help object, based on the overlay state. For example, for the rifle, I have this one, I have this skeleton right here, so I'm just going to get that. So get the skeletal mesh, and yeah, first I'm going to show you more about the logic, but first I'm going to create the M action. Currently, the vessel locomotion system is using the right mode button. For the M system, is right here. The camera just get closer. You can edit that to make this a small movement on third person and the M down side on the first person. But I'm just going to make a right mouse button event right here, and I like to add this small delay because as you can see here, when I aim, the weapon is moving first and then is the camera action. Okay, I like that as effect, so I'm just going to add a small delay. The idea is if I'm pressing the button, I'm going to execute the action. If I release the button, I'm not going to execute the action. It's very simple. For that, I create this custom event right here. Just add a custom event, give it a name, and I need to add a custom parameter. Right here is just an input, is a condition, a boolean, and that's all. So if I'm pressing the button, it will be true. If I release the button, it will be false. It's right here. So based on that, I'm going to set this variable, just promote to variable this thing, or you can just create right here, variable, remember, is just ADS enable, and by default, yeah, just set it as false, and if it's true, this condition, set it as true and false. So now the logic is to make it smooth, as you can see here. Let me just pick another weapon. To make the chain smooth, I'm going to use a timeline. The timeline interpolates in a certain amount of time between different keys. So just make a right click and search for a timeline. You give it a name, movement, for example, and add a flow track right here. And the idea is interpolate between two values. Okay, so the first value will be 0. Just right click, another key, and for example, for the time, I'm going to use the length. In this case, it's 5 seconds, and the value 1. So the idea is interpolate between 0 and 1. Select the boat and make a right click and select auto just to make it this even more smooth. But this is not the timeline that I'm going to use. I'm going to use this one. It's exactly the same, but for the time, for the length, I have 0.25 seconds, and I have this extra key, but it's not necessary. And here you can just promote your variable again. It's right here, or just create a variable right here. Is the m.side value. So the idea is override this value to interpolate between right here on this lab between the default location of the camera and between the socket that I set up right here. So yeah, I'm going to show you how to do that. But first, I'm going to show you how to set up the system letting the third person, well, the camera switching system. Just go to the parent class of your character. It's this one. And here you will see these graphs. Just go to the player input, it's right here, and search for the camera action. As this is what is changing the cameras. Okay, so for the first person, I'm going to create this variable called first person, and for the person is true. For the third person is false. Just because it's on the parent class, you can get that also right here on the child class. The first thing is just get the player reference right here and get the first person variable. So just drag this and it's here. So just first, if this thing is valid, well, is the other one is valid, I'm going to execute my custom and my custom behavior. But if it's not valid, if it's the first time that you open this, you will see just these two parts. But yes, you can see I just move it a little bit. And here, if it's valid, I'm going to execute my code. But if it's not valid, I'm going to use it the default calculate custom camera parameters. This is just to provide some warnings on your system. And yeah, if the first person is valid, just make a branch right here. If it's valid, I'm going to use again my custom system, but if it's false, I'm going to use just the custom. So this is currently just the third person. So now the logic again is I'm using this player reference, and if you're following my last tutorial, I teach you how to create an actor as a base weapon. You can get that as a current weapon to then get the skeletal mesh component, or in my case, I'm just getting the player and this skeletal mesh component right here. If you go to the update help object, it's right here. Based on the overlay state, this thing is overriding the skeletal mesh. For example, for the rifle, I have this skeletal mesh right here. So I'm just getting that. So yeah, just get the skeletal mesh is in here. And for there, just get the socket transform is right here. With that socket transform, you will see something like this. What I'm doing is just split this to get the location and rotation and the scale. Okay, and then I'm getting the rotation on the three parts, the X, Y, and Z. So the idea is use this location to override this function. Actually, you can just connect that, but if you want to make it smooth, just keep following the tutorial. And for the rotation, I'm using the mesh and I'm using this socket right here. As you can see, the mesh is right here. And this is the socket FP camera that the Abyssal Locomotion system is using for the first person location. Just get that, get socket location. And the idea is interpolate between those values based on an alpha, and the alpha is the m.side value that I have right here. Just get that variable to connect it as on the alpha, and yeah, I'm going to interpolate between this third person socket and the location of my skeletal mesh, the m.side socket right here, based on the alpha. You can just connect this thing, but this is to for the sway system. And for the rotation, I'm using the get control rotation right here as and the left, and just split the rotation right here to I'm using this make rotation because I don't want to use all the axes. So it's just this one, just make a rotation. Just duplicate this control rotation and obviously connect that right here, make a split. Okay, let me just show you, recombine, split, and just use the x variable on this make rotation and use the y and c on the to fill the make rotation. So this is going to be the b value for the left rotator. And yeah, just check this shortest path, set this right here on the return node. It's very simple. Actually, if I disable this way system, you will see something like this. Okay, as you can see, the chain is smooth. But now for the sway system, just promote these two things to a variable. You can just do that, promote to a variable. And for example, I already have that, is this one, location and rotation. You need to do the same for the boat right here. And okay, so the idea is set these variables. Yeah, here I have the rotation. So just get the control rotation to set this variable. Is the same as here. Now I'm going to make a rotate vector. It's here. For this, I need to create a variable. This way offset is just a vector. Remember, you can just promote this to automatically create the variable. Remember this lab, just add vector plus vector and connect that right here and use it to set the variable location and connect this. Another thing that you need to do is on the event tick, is right here, event tick, it's here. This is not really necessary. What I'm going to do is, if this is valid, just always verify if your variable is valid because the execution orders are not perfect. So if, for example, right here, if you set this variable on the begin play, well, the unpossessed event, before that you execute the event tick, this variable will be invalid. So you don't want to have a lot of warnings. So the first thing is set the variable is way offset right here. Just set and make a b interp 2 right here. I'm going to use the same variable is with offset as the current get war delta seconds right here. On the delta time, the interior speed will be 8 and the target just set it as 0. And then I'm going to do the same, the v interp, the current, the delta seconds, the interp speed at 5, and here I have this select vector. The selector based on the ADS enable, the variable that I have right here, is going to select the return nodes of these two nodes. First, I need to create some variables inside of my player, but actually I'm going to do that on the base parent on my player. So let's go again to the player input graph and search for the camera input. Here the same, just promote your variable because I need to create a variable for the axis look up down and the leg look left and right, and just set those variables after the input. So it's just right here, for example, the leg up square, just you can just replace it put the thing right here, and it's just that. So now on my player camera manager, I can get those two variables. So I have look, the look up way right here, and look left way. I need to create two variables. This way, yaw intensity and pitch intensity. Just create those two variables, and for the default value, I like to set that on 2.5 and 2.5. Just follow this. Make a you just need two inputs. So this is a vector. No, sorry, this is a float, and this is also a float. So just make float plus float and connect them. Here, just make a clamp, just copy these values, -20 and 20, and use the same sweep offset right here, okay? As you can see, this is just vector plus vector. It's right here, and split this. As you can see, it's here. So connect this right here, and for the another, I'm going to use the lookup square and the pitch intensity, the same logic. Clamp, I'm going to use -10 and 10 to override the C and use it for the A of this select vector. Then you can just copy this and paste it because it's pretty much similar. The only difference is that I have here another ping. Just select that and -1 and copy these values. Minus 0.7, 0.7, and is the same for the another. And select that as the B. And currently, that's all. Well, remember, this should look like this, where you have this. If this is not valid, well, it will execute this. And let me just try it. Okay, remember, if I'm on field person and obviously the schedule mesh is valid, I have this SY effect. Okay, so yeah, that was all.